Welcome, denizens of the dark arts. It's your old pal Primal Chaos here today, and we're going to think outside the box today. We're going to the Far East, or the wherever India is. I guess it's like in the middle, sort of down. But yeah, I've been shot this request many times because this band, who I'm assuming have been around for a little while, they seem to have just struck a chord recently, and so everybody who's willing to tell me is telling me about these guys. And I don't know much about them. I just know what everyone leads with when they tell you, and that they're a bunch of guys from, I expect, India, that are doing sort of like a spin on metal but with traditional instruments and things like that. So it's about all I know so far. With all that being said, let's just dive in and find out, because I'm really curious. I've seen bands come out of India before. I've seen, occasionally some act will go viral to a degree. Some of them less than graciously. I've seen a couple of like studio things where some guys rustled up enough cash to get in the studio and make a love song for his lady or whatever. I expected this will be a much higher production value. So let's jump in. This is going to be amazing. Here we go. Bollywood, Machi Bhasad, or Expect a Riot. Let's take a look. Okay. There it is. Ah, what a groove. Rapping? Okay.
Cannon should so fast to the sound make a revolution. This is an act of war, this is the evolution. Remember those who raised before, with the last straw hard to the core, and we're ready for more. Rise up and get on the attack. Become the generation to break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Rise up, get on the attack. Become the generation to break the camel's back. Rise the bomb, take it all game. Come start fire, it's the whole game.
All right, we got to stop it there because wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but this is something along the lines of something I didn't quite expect, but wow, really cool. So the thing that strikes me is really interesting. I mean, obviously straight off the bat, if you're going to try and draw comparisons, I'm hearing like there's a little bit of sort of the quirkiness of System of a Down, and then with the rapping, you got a little bit of Rage Against the Machine coupled with, I had a quick scan through the lyrics, and this song really is like a battle song, like a call to arms, about taking the fight to them sort of thing, so that's, it all sort of plays into that sort of logic. But what is abundantly clear to me is the concept of sort of like, I wish I knew the name of the drum. Someone can, if you could fill me in the comments, that'd be great. The more Indian style drum. There's something about that rhythm that, and also I'm trying to get a beat on what the drummer's playing, because it's not, your typical Western backbeat rhythm. It's 4/4, but it's sort of like the groove sits different. It's sort of a bit more up front. The subdivisions just feel accented in a different way, if that makes sense. And I mean, I'm no drummer, so this is like, I'm talking outside of my field of expertise here, but the funny thing is it still grooves. It's still got that sort of 2 and 4 sort of pulse, but the rhythms are sort of more up front, if that makes sense. Again, like I'm talking about stuff that's not really my wheelhouse. But the cool thing about it is it sort of drives, even though the tempo is relatively slow, it's not that fast, but because they're sort of hitting everything sort of, there's so much going on, I can't even articulate it. It's really interesting, but I like the energy, I like the attitude of it. But yeah, let's jump back. Singer's got an interesting voice too, because it's got some grit to it, but, and I think I heard a little bit of like a in there as well, but That's a cool riff, man.
Hey there, hi, I'm ready to die.
The red kind of guy who's willing to try to take the big shots at the big boys. Boom, boom, bang, make a big noise. Shake it up, I got the big toys. Rhyming dust with the best of the rest.
I love that.
Put it to the test. No flag on my bulletproof vest. Talk to my heart, so I never gotta guess. Hear those who came before. Feel what is yet to come. Know what you're fighting for. It's why we go to war.
Oh. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. The drummer isn't comfortable just sitting on a basic groove. Like, if you listen through this, just the part where that guy's singing, there's 3 different drum rhythms. It starts off with just a straight, and then he double times it sort of, and then he does like a blap, 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 blap sort of thing towards the end. Double kicks, straight snare, double time. Interesting. Yes, it seems like I'm just trying to. Sorry, I'm trying to get a feel for what rhythmically is happening that sounds a little bit odd. And when I say odd, I mean magical. But yeah, I think what it is that he's the drummer is very he's very kick drum heavy. So I'm hearing a lot of little triplet fills and stuff like that in the kick drums. So while there's a fair amount of stuff going on up here, a lot of that sort of rhythmic sort of push and pull is coming from how he's articulating his kick drums, I guess. So again, if you're a drummer, fill me in, because I'm curious like what he's doing that seems a little bit different. Although it could even just be the general rhythms across the board in the band, or maybe even, again, that Indian drum sort of putting in like a different accent across the top. I don't know, but he seems very competent in his double kick playing, that's for sure. Oh, that bounce. This is cool. Very cool. Aww.
It's a fight that goes beyond bad and good. It's a fight that goes beyond bad and good.
Interesting. It's funny when you sort of step outside of Western music, and to be honest, I've been doing a lot of bands from Japan lately, but primarily they're playing very Western themes. When you step outside Western music, you tend to hear things that are influenced by Western music, but at the same time, they don't fall into a lot of the same traps, because you know you can pull from different sort of areas to remove the bland, right? But what's interesting there is that part through there with that call and response, hey, 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 part through there. Immediately, to me, it evoked The Who, because they have that same thing where they've got like sort of drums and stuff going, and chanted sort of gang vocals and stuff like that. And it just reminded me of the Who song I did, Wolf Totem, I think. Obviously faster and more energetic, but... Like just imagine that with like throat singing under it, and it would be the Who, right? Very cool.
Thanks so much for watching that video, guys. Machi, Bhasad, Expect a Riot. The song is quite self-explanatory. And fun fact, we actually wrote this for Ubisoft, an upcoming Ubisoft game called Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh, no way!
And they didn't like it, but we liked it, so we made a music video. We shot this in Jaisalmer, Haryana, and Rohatgaon, the very warm and lively gaon that you obviously saw in the video. Gaon means village. Thanks to...
Very cool, very cool. Wow, okay, stick around after the break. I'm going to give a little bit more of a breakdown and analysis. Hey guys, this video is made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. Wow, what a really interesting experience. I don't know what I expected, but essentially that ticked all the boxes and then some. What was really cool was that it's sort of like it's got enough Western influence to be familiar, but also it's got enough character to it to be fresh and interesting. They're obviously really competent musicians as well. They seem to really have a sense of who they are unapologetically, and they're just producing the sound they want to hear from the way I see it. And it's cool. I really like the way that they seem proud of their heritage too. They're pulling in a lot of, this is a day in the life in India, but at the same time, they've got that sort of element to it of like, this is a fight song. So, a lot of the thing was shot in what looks like an old fortified village or town or whatever. There's cannons and stuff like that, but throwing in like that sort of boots on the ground element of like, this is the life here, right? This is the people we're proud of and stuff like that. And these are the people we're fighting for, was just really interesting. I really dug that. Musically, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, there's some crossover there with like System of a Down and sort of other bands of that ilk, where there's some new element introduced into the typical metal or new metal sort of zeitgeist that makes them fresh and new, right? Because a lot of times when bands are coming up, they'll hear stuff that they love and then they'll learn how to play that stuff, and then they'll sort of put that through their own prism. And if you're really lucky, your stuff will sort of push off in a different direction and become an original act that stands out from the group. But the vast majority of musicians end up in a situation where they're sort of pushing out the same stuff that influences them, or the stuff that they hear around them. And that's how we get genres, right? But sometimes people subvert that genre. These guys are lucky enough that to me, I sort of see this as sort of like a more of a metal groove kind of, almost new metal kind of element, 2000s era sort of, almost like hard rock or metal-y rock sort of thing. Like there's comparisons there with, obviously, System of a Down, but also, Fred Durst's band. I can't, whatever, with some bouncing sort of hip-hoppiness to it and things like that as well. But what's great is they take this new element of sort of their ethnicity, juxtapose that against what they've been listening to, and you get a whole new fresh vibe. And so this is just as relevant in 2022 as those bands were in like 2005 or 4 or whenever they came out, And I love that. I think it's great. These guys are sort of carrying that torch forward for those of us who love sort of like just great riffs, jumping around, kind of bouncy kind of metal. And that's never going away. In fact, a lot of people look at that stuff these days as like a guilty pleasure. But I mean, you put on some hardcore Limp Bizkit and everybody's jumping. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. As like some people are like, no one's looking. I can pretend I can show that I actually like this. And so I get a lot of that vibe here. But look, honestly, I was kind of transfixed with the rhythms a little bit. I felt like that was so different and energetic and powerful that it just sort of like it just elevates the entire song. Really, really cool stuff. I'm a fan. I want to hear more of these guys, and I want to know more of their story too. So if you happen to know any backstory, another thing I was thinking in that part at the end where I called out the bounciness of that riff, again, it's sort of a little bit more swung than I think a Western metal band would ever allow themselves to do. Unless they're partially, hip hop adjacent, you know what I mean? That to me sounded like the ultimate mosh pit song, right? Or, pit song, where that comes in. Let's imagine these guys, they take a foothold in the West, and you've got legions of fans who are into them in the same way that System of a Down captured the zeitgeist back in the day, right? And they're playing a show like Wacken, and you've got 100,000 people there all into the song, and then that bounce comes in, it'll be freaking chaos, And that's the kind of energy that I see for these guys. There's enough variation through the songs or through the song to really sort of keep you interested. It's not all that repetitive. They've got the element of having some rapping and some sung choruses and things like that. And then they can sort of always drop back to like just the ethnicity of like that Indian drums and stuff like that for like a breakdown, which just really keeps things interesting. And of course, flowing into that, you imagine them on stage and suddenly there's a spectacle as well. Like they might have, backing singers in costume, or they might have like this dude with his drum out. Every time he whips his drum out, the crowd would lose their minds, things like that. So, and then there's another dude in the background playing that as well. Or is it the same guy, different guy? I don't know, whatever. It's just, they would be like one of those bands that starts off with the grassroots following and ends up becoming a AAA sort of booking artist, Very cool. At least that's what I hope. I hope that happens. I'm projecting a little. Anyway, that's all I've really got to say about it. So as usual, if you feel obliged, buy me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description. Again, all these videos get demonetized, so every little bit helps. Like, share, follow, subscribe. If you think anybody might benefit from this reaction, send it to them. That'd be great. And yeah, man, I'll catch you guys on the next one.